What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back. In today's video we are checking out the latest electric scooter from Freego called the F12. So this scooter is called the F12 because we have 12-inch inflatable tires on the front and of course on the back. Now when you have inflatable tires you can kind of adjust your own comfort, so if you make those tires harder of course the ride will be a bit bumpier, but if you deflate those tires a bit you can get a more comfortable ride. With this scooter we also get a front suspension. We have a 500 watt motor that's located in the rear wheel here. The top speed for this scooter is 25 kilometers an hour and you can reach 25 kilometers an hour in most situations. And according to the manufacturer you can get up to 50 kilometers on one charge, but we'll talk more about that later on in the video. Let's start the super quick unboxing just so I can show you what comes in the box with this. Alright, so the box was in pretty rough shape, but luckily the scooter inside the box was not damaged. I did have to do a bit of an installation. I basically had to put the handlebar together, but it's super simple to do and it takes about 5 minutes to get this ready and on the road. Now you've probably noticed that on the box we get a different name, something like All SUV Pro or something like that. So this is a generic brand that you're probably gonna see under different names over the next few months. So even though this one is called the Freego F12, it is very likely that you're gonna see the exact same scooter with a different name over the next few weeks or months, but it will be the exact same generic scooter that we're looking at today. Alright, so the scooter itself does look a bit different than most other scooters out there. Of course, it has a lot to do with those bigger wheels than normal, and I would say that it has a bit of a retro look. It kind of looks like a scooter that you would see in the 90s, even though back then we didn't actually have electric scooters. So we do have a more different look, I'm gonna say. Now the build quality on it is kind of mediocre, I'm gonna say so, even though it doesn't really make any noises when you go over uneven terrain or when you jump on it or when you do anything like that. It doesn't feel like something that expensive. I mean, for its price I was expecting better materials, I'm gonna say. Alright, so starting on the back here we have this plastic mudguard, I'm gonna say. Unfortunately, this does tend to get scratched quite easily, so every time you touch it, you do leave a mark on it. On the back here, we also have a light, so you can have the lights on or off, and this also acts as a brake light. So whenever you're pressing that brake lever, this will become a bit brighter. On the back here, we also have the disc brake. This is the only brake available, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then we have the 500 watt motor there. So with many other scooters that I've seen in the past and tried in the past, we have a brake on the front and a brake on the back. Well, with this one we have one brake, and that is in the rear there. Now this one also brakes a bit different than most other scooters. So as soon as you press the brake lever here, it does a combination of engine brake and the mechanical brake, because this is a mechanical brake here. So yes, the rear brake does tend to brake better than other scooters out there, but we still don't have a brake on the front. So whenever you're going downhill and you're going pretty fast, it does struggle to brake. I mean, if you really want to brake quick, it's not going to be that quick to brake. So even though it is a better braking system than other scooters out there, I still wish to have had a front brake. The kickstand is located on the left-hand side of the scooter here. It is made out of metal, but it doesn't seem to be the sturdiest kickstand out there. However, whenever the scooter is resting on the kickstand, it doesn't seem to move that much. So even if you touch it a bit, it's not gonna fall. If it's wind, it's not gonna fall. So overall, the kickstand does work pretty decent. As for the battery pack, well, you're basically standing on top of that battery pack at all times. This area for your feet is also wider and bigger than most other scooters that I got to try, and this surface is also rubber, so even if you get a bit wet, if your feet are wet, it's not gonna slip because that is made out of rubber. Now, since we are talking about the battery, so it takes about 7 hours to charge this from 0 to 100. Now on one charge, the manufacturer says that you're gonna be able to get up to 50 kilometers of range, but realistically you're gonna get about 25 to 30 kilometers. But that has a lot to do with your weight and the terrain that you're riding on, because if you're riding up hills all the time and you're heavier like me, of course you're not gonna be able to get close to that 50 kilometers, so you're gonna get about 25 for my height, my weight, and for the terrain that we have around here. The scooter is also foldable, so we have the folding mechanism right here. It is fairly simple to fold. You basically push this safety lock in, and then you do this and you can lift up the scooter. The scooter weighs 20 kilos, so it's not the heaviest scooter out there, not the lightest scooter out there. You definitely don't want to carry this for extended periods of time, but yes, you can fold it so you can kind of like put it in the car's trunk on the bus or something like that. So yes, it is foldable like most electric scooters out there. Moving to the front of the scooter, here we have a plastic mud guard over that front wheel. Of course, that's going to be helpful mostly if you ride over wet surfaces. Then we have the suspension that I mentioned earlier. The suspension does work pretty well. So whenever you go over bumps and stuff like that, it will definitely help to keep you more comfortable. Now, since we have the bigger wheels, you can also jump a few curbs easier. If there are potholes on the road, you can also go over them easier. So having bigger wheels definitely helps for the overall comfort, I'm gonna say. As for the headlight, you can turn this on and off, and it is bright enough to be seen in direct sunlight. And of course, at night, it's gonna light up the path ahead of you. Moving on to the handlebar, well, this is not the widest handlebar out there. So at times I do feel a bit crammed on the scooter, not to mention that these kind of come off. So that's not great because I hate when these move on any scooter. So you're probably gonna have to replace these with something better. As I mentioned before, we have the brake lever right here. We also have a little bell there. This thing right here is basically so you can fold the scooter and that catches onto the back of the scooter. And then on the right hand side here we have the accelerator and we have the power button right here and a little display. Unfortunately, the display cannot really be seen outside when it's sunny out. I mean, if you're riding it during the night, of course you can easily see that, but during the day you can't really see that display that well. Aside from that, the display will show you the speed, how much battery you have, how many kilometers you've done on the scooter and so on. But sadly, the display doesn't get that bright, so it is a bit difficult seeing during the day. So riding on this is actually pretty comfortable, more comfortable than a lot of other scooters that I got to try in the past, and that has a lot to do with those inflatable tires and of course that front suspension. So whenever you go over bumps, you don't really feel those bumps in your knees, in your back as you do with other scooters. So for comfort, this is better than a lot of other scooters that I got to try in the past. Not to mention the scooter is extremely quiet as well, so you don't really hear anything whenever you're riding on this. So for comfort and quietness, it is really good actually. The top speed on it is 25 kilometers an hour, and I'm sure that's limited, so the scooter complies with certain regulations in different countries. This particular one was shipped to Europe, so here the top speed for electric scooter has to be 25 kilometers an hour. So the scooter will not pass 25 kilometers an hour, and you can reach that 25 kilometers an hour pretty easily. Alright, so let me quickly show you how this works. So we have the power button here, we have another button here, that's the mode button. You can also turn on the headlight from that button, so we'll power this on. We have 3 modes available, so now we're in the mode number 3. This is 1, this is 2 and 3. The modes only limit the scooter's top speed, so they don't actually change the power or anything like that. So we're ready to go for a ride. So you have to start moving the scooter and then you accelerate. We have the accelerator on the right here, so very simple. The scooter is very quiet when you ride it, so listen. You can hear the motor, but that's about it, no other sounds. So let's see the top speed. So 15 miles per hour, that's 25 kilometers per hour, and we'll do a little bit of a brake test. So if you want, you can really lock that rear wheel. We'll do another little brake test here. So as soon as you touch the brake, you can hear that engine brake that I mentioned earlier. So that's how this scooter brakes a bit differently by using that motor brake basically. So kind of like regenerative braking for cars. So it is a bit different, it works okay, but I would have loved to see a brake on the front. So once again, the top speed, and we'll do a brake test. So yeah, this is how you ride this scooter, that simple. As for uphill riding, considering that we have a 500 watt motor on the back there, I was actually expecting the scooter would have a bit more power. But I actually get on the same hills as high as I get with other scooters that have 250 watt motors. So uphill riding, it really depends what kind of a hill you're riding on, but it's not as good as I was expecting. On flat surfaces, no problem whatsoever, you have plenty of power, but whenever you're going uphill, well, the scooter kind of slows down quite a lot, and eventually it does stop and you have to push it. So I was expecting a bit more, considering that we have that 500 watt motor on the back there. Alright, and next we have a quick test going uphill, just so you can see how it does. So our hill is starting about here. I'm accelerating as much as I can, and as you can see, it's slowing down, it's slowing down, slowing down, and it will stop somewhere around here. So going uphill is not the greatest on this. So there you have it, this is the Freego F12. As I said, you're probably gonna see this exact scooter under different name brands in the near future. Overall, it's not a bad scooter, mostly because it's super comfortable, it's very quiet, it has plenty of power on flat surfaces, but I wish the material used for it would have been better. Certain details like this have to be fixed, and so on. So for the price, it is a bit too expensive for what it is, in my opinion. Alright guys, hopefully this video was useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.